Welcome back. Liberians are getting ready to head to the polls come Tuesday, October the 10th, in what is believed to be a historic change of power. Various political parties held final rallies ahead of the first round of voting in the country's presidential election, following 12 years of President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's Unity Party rule. The first round's leading contenders are the current Vice President Joseph Nyuma Boakai of the ruling Unity Party, UP, George Mane Ware of the Coalition for Democratic Change, CDC, and Alexander Benedict Cummings of the Alternative National Congress, ANC. The elections will be the first democratic transfer of power in Liberia since the 1970s. Ms. Sirleaf was the first woman to be democratically elected in Africa after inheriting a country battered by a 14-year civil war and a crumbling economy. No single candidate is expected to gain more than 50% of the vote, and the two candidates with the most votes is expected to fight a second round within a month.
There are three major political parties: the Unity Party, the Coalition for Democratic Change, and the Liberty Party. Okay? What that has done for the Liberian people is it made their choice very easy. They have to choose between or from among a failed vice president, an accomplished football player, and an accomplished lawyer. So Liberian people should have an easy choice deciding who they want to lead this country for the next 6 years.
Well, let's now take a look at President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and her 12 years of being in office.
President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was born on October the 26th in 1938. The 79-year-old is the current and 24th president of Liberia since 2006. The Harvard-trained economist was the first democratically elected woman president in Africa when she won the elections in 2005. Ms. Sirleaf, who was also the second to win a Nobel Peace Prize, is stepping down after 12 years at the helm of affairs in a fragile West African state. When she was sworn in for her first term in 2005, Sirleaf inherited a country ruined by a 14-year civil war that killed more than 250,000 people, corruption, a battered economy, and about $4.5 million, which creditors took 5 years to cancel.
Have an opportunity to open the doors for more African women to hold high-level political positions. Challenging because I represent the aspirations and expectations of Liberian African women, maybe women all over the world, and therefore the pressure is on me to make sure that I succeed.
Sirleaf was slowly rebuilding Liberia's economy when the Ebola epidemic erupted in 2014. The disease killed 4,800 people in the country and a total of 11,000 people in West Africa as it swept through neighboring Guinea and Sierra Leone, infecting more than 20,000 people.
This epidemic is a challenge to Liberia and a challenge to all of those who are friends of Liberia and partners of Liberia.
Liberia was declared Ebola-free in June 2015 when Sirleaf said the country needed 2 years to regain its economic footing as commodity prices had slumped. She was in charge of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, when she mediated for the peaceful handover of power from Gambia's Yahya Jammeh, who lost the election to Adama Barrow, who refused to step down. Liberians go to the polls on October the 10th for the first round of the presidential and legislative elections.
Mr. Chukwemeka Eze joins us from Freetown via Skype. He is the Executive Director of the West African Network for Peace Building. Welcome to the program. President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf steps down after 2 terms. What does it say about democracy in Liberia and Africa, where we've seen more leaders refusing or amending their constitutions? Is it because she's a woman by any chance?
Well, I think I'm actually in Liberia, not in Freetown. But let me also say that it's not just because she's a woman. I think there is more and more adherence to the protocol relating to democracy and good governance of ECOWAS as a community. While it is true that more leaders are trying to change their constitution to remain in power, I think for West Africa, we are doing extremely very well. And if you look at the countries in West Africa, we are progressing in terms of deepening our democracy and strengthening our institutions. So beyond just being a woman, I think that Ellen Johnson's holding of the position of the chair of the authority of ECOWAS, heads of state and government, also meant that she needed to lead by example. She has been the chair of the authority for the last 2 years and just handed over in the last summit to the president of Togo. So I think that is more about the institutional deepening of democracy as it relates to the ECOWAS Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance that is making it more difficult for West African leaders to...
I was going to ask that over the course of the campaign, candidates have been speaking on changes that they aim to implement for the Liberian people. What issues are most pressing for them? Okay, I believe we've lost Mr. Chukwuemeka Eze. Hopefully, we will connect right back to finish up some of these questions. Well, let's move on to this story, and this is coming from Zimbabwe, where an artist, well, she exhibits her paintings of African life at a London gallery. Her first solo show was at the Turburn Gallery in central London, displaying derisive reflections on African life through oil and acrylic works. Well, that tells the story in what became a personal quest for identity.
It's not often that a young, recently graduated African art student gets a solo exhibition at a gallery in central London. But that's exactly what Zimbabwean-born Kudzanai Violet Tuami has accomplished. 11 of her works were recently put on sale at the Tyburn Gallery in central London to an encouraging response from art lovers. The Tyburn Gallery, just off Oxford Street, is dedicated to international contemporary art, exhibiting, representing, and championing younger talented artists such as Kudzanai Violet Tuami. She says her masterpiece was inspired by a family photo album.
In essence, the exhibition is about me digging into an old photo album and trying to find myself within the images. Some of the people that were in the photographs aren't my, they weren't people I was close to growing up, but they sort of played a role into influencing the way I think in some small way or another. And I guess I was looking at these photographs and I wanted to incorporate them in my paintings.
The display comprises bold, large-scale paintings based on old family photographs dating from the 1970s. She herself was born in Gutu, Zimbabwe in 1993. She now lives and works in the UK. At the opening of the exhibition, the crowds were able to see reflections of African life both in Zimbabwe and South Africa, where the original pictures were taken.
And that's about all we can take on Network Africa at this time. Many thanks for watching. I'm Millicent Walker.